Hi, this is Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life. I'm in our headquarters today, and I wanted to do a quick vlog on the ridiculous New York Times op-ed that was just released by the CEO of Planned Parenthood, Alexis McGill Johnson. The CEO position at Planned Parenthood has been a revolving door. They had Cecile Richards from 2006 to 2018, and since then, it's just been a mess. They fired Dr. Leana Wen after she wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post talking about her own personal miscarriages and how she was grieving the loss of her baby, not something Planned Parenthood or their supporters likes hearing about. So she was fired, and then McGill Johnson was put in as interim, and now she's CEO. And Planned Parenthood has been woke, like everybody else in the world. We're now, declaring whether you're a corporation or anything, you're saying that you're not racist when apparently you were the day before George Floyd was killed. And so Planned Parenthood is the latest to do this, and man, do they do a horrible job. If you have not read that op-ed, it should really encourage us in the pro-life movement, because Alexis McGill Johnson, don't get me wrong, she does not hold back. I mean, she absolutely hammers Margaret Sanger, and who was the founder of Planned Parenthood, who was a racist, who was believed in eugenics, which is why she started the birth control review. It's why she launched Planned Parenthood. It's the best benefit of contraception and abortion is that you can, in her words, weed out the unfit. And so this is who she was. Planned Parenthood gave an award in Margaret Sanger's honor just up until 2015. Before outside pressure made them stop doing it. And McGill Johnson, their CEO, points this out. She doesn't hold back. She talks about how Margaret Sanger, talked about how we needed to get rid of the unfit. She orchestrated experimental birth control on Puerto Rican women without telling them the ramifications. She puts all this in her op-ed. She goes after the disabled. She goes after the unfit. She goes after Margaret Sanger's relationship with the KKK. And she does all of this, something, by the way, the pro-life movement has been doing for decades, and all we were told is that we were fanatics. But now that all of this has happened, she felt the need, I guess, finally to write this op-ed. But she says all of this in the op-ed, just hammers Margaret Sanger, talks about all of these radical beliefs. Enough is enough. It's time for us to distance ourselves from Margaret Sanger. All the things that sound nice. And then she says, but Margaret Sanger was not a racist because I don't know what was in her heart. Now, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but we don't really apply that when we're calling everybody a racist these days for every reason under the sun, whether it's grounded or not. And yet, if Margaret Sanger is not a racist, no one is. What else does she have to possibly do to become a racist if she's not currently one? And I guess McGill Johnson needs to ask the unfit and the Puerto Rican women and the blacks who were persecuted by the KKK if they knew what was in Margaret Sanger's heart, because they probably had a pretty good guess. So the whole op-ed was ridiculous. It was like most of the things in our cancel culture. It's a waste of time at best, and it's just so disingenuous. It's such a PR elitist view of humanity that we're just gonna come out and say the person who spoke at the KKK rallies, the person who said we need to get rid of the unfit, the person who said we need to exterminate the Negro population, one of Margaret Sanger's famous quotes, and the person who went and did experiments on Puerto Rican women, she's not a racist, but she was bad and we're gonna distance ourselves from her and enough is enough. And it's just an absolute joke. The other part of this that is really good for the pro-life movement in the big scheme of things is that, there are things more important than race, obviously, to Planned Parenthood, and that is abortion. Abortion is their ultimate sacrament, and that's why Alexis McGill Johnson, in her bio on Planned Parenthood's website, you can go look at it. She talks about how she's been a racial justice leader her entire life. She started working at Planned Parenthood 11 years ago. How could you possibly work there for a week, much less a year, much less 11 years, with them honoring Margaret Sanger, with them bragging about her and defending her, and call yourself a racial justice defender? It's so disingenuous. No one possibly takes this seriously, and the only reason that you would is because abortion is more important than racial justice to Planned Parenthood. That's why most of their facilities are in minority areas. That's why no one cares when you bring up the fact that Black Americans make up 12% of the population and yet 36% of all abortions. And when you ask abortion supporters, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, they have nothing to say. There's no good answer. But they just completely ignore those statistics. And I think that it's ignored from the top. And McGill Johnson was, I guess, forced to outside pressure to finally attempt to distance herself from Margaret Sanger. And she did a very bad job of doing that, because she said that she won't call her a racist because she doesn't know what's in her heart. And so the whole thing was ridiculous, but it's good for the grassroots pro-life movement. We recently had our grassroots webcast, and the more their CEO, this is the third CEO, in the last 4 or 5 years that they've had, it's been a revolving door. That trickles down, because there's a huge disconnect right now for Planned Parenthood in those who run the corporate side of it, which is a very comfortable side of it, and those who are actually running their abortion facilities and doing the abortions like they did in this building, which is now our headquarters. There's a huge disconnect. The former Planned Parenthood workers will tell you that, and we see it at 40 Days for Life locations. That's why many of their employees, we get to know them, and many of them have a change of heart. Some of them don't, obviously, not all of them, but they at least respect us and they know our intentions. These people that are running Planned Parenthood are completely disconnected, and that was on full display in the New York Times editorial that their CEO did. Not only did she fail to call Margaret Sanger a racist, but she pointed to Margaret Sanger's vision and how Planned Parenthood carries it out better than any organization in the history of the world, which is eugenics. That's what abortion and contraception is for, and they do it, sadly, better than any other organization around the world, whether it be in Latin America, where they call themselves Pro Familia, or Planned Parenthood Federation of America, which, by the way, in their last reported year, did a record 354,000 abortions in the United States alone. And so the reasons given for an abortion are economic, usually poverty, and disabilities. And that is eugenics. And not only, are they trying to apologize for Margaret Sanger as they carry out her mission perfectly, her vision perfectly, but they're disingenuous about doing it. And I think at a time when we have the most pro-abortion government in U.S. history, this is great news for us, because we're still talking about this. They're still having to justify the most common surgery in our land. And that is a good thing. And that should motivate us to get out and to get in the streets and to pray and to fast and know at the most important level, the local level, which is not disconnected from reality, we are winning the battle. So I really want you to be encouraged. Feel free to check out that op-ed. We also have a podcast where we cover this episode with Dr. Haywood Robinson, a former abortion provider and a former Planned Parenthood manager. Sue Thayer will ask them about Margaret Sanger, so you can subscribe to the 40 Days for Life podcast also and check that out. God bless you.